G'day viewers, my name's Graham Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists in Australia do what they do.
Well, g'day viewers and welcome back to Colour in Your Life. We're at the studio today of a gentleman named David Lovegrove. David?
How are you, Graham? I'm very well.
Thank you for having us down here. Dave's an interesting character, very interesting man. I've only known Dave for a little while, but Dave's a Kung Fu master. But what he's done with his martial arts and his art is he's really combined, in a sense, I suppose, the philosophy of both sides of what you do, isn't it?
Exactly.
And you've come through to become a manga artist. Now, manga is from Japan, is that correct?
That's right. That's a Japanese word for comics, really.
But a lot of the stuff that Dave does goes into the comics, into books. You've done some really major projects with companies like Qantas,
Yep.
for a start. What did you do with Qantas?
I did a 30-second ad, a double-handed ad, which showed in prime time during The Voice. Motor scooters and pizzas and ladies' shoes and other things that you could buy with this cash card they have.
It's really interesting work, but Dave's also developed a style, and I think this is sort of part of the philosophy with your Kung Fu and your martial arts. And it's really using the sense of being as far as your work's concerned, and you actually draw with, which is really difficult to do by any means, but you actually draw with both hands at the same time.
Yeah.
And we're going to actually watch him do that today. He's actually going to start on a blank piece of board, but to do this and then work with both sides of your head at the same time and then coordinate both of your hands at the same time, it's got to be a task in itself, isn't it?
It's a Kung Fu. It's a Kung Fu skill.
We're also going to screen up, as well as we go along, a lot of the comic book strips that you've done. They're really quite fascinating and obviously, really orientated back to that Japanese style of work.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, fantastic.
All right, well, let's go and have a do with this then. Okay, Dave, what in your creative sense drives you to do this type of work?
My interest is really in the mind and both sides of the mind, what you could call using the whole brain to draw. And I want to just see what can come out of the unconscious, out of the dreamy mind, I think of it as.
Well, let's have a look at that.
Okay.
Okay. And you're using, is it Faber-Castell charcoals?
Yes, Faber-Castell pit charcoal.
Okay.
Beautiful quality stuff.
All right. And this type of thing, it helps you with your comic book work, your illustrations?
Yes, absolutely. This is one of the greatest ways in manga we do this sort of thing to create unusual characters, so they're not just cliched, standard, pretty, handsome characters. We often create monsters or funny characters using this sort of thing. So I'm putting in some 3D, bit of thickness to this thing, and I can see a bit of a character here, so I'm going to work into him.
I can see that you're working a lot with your eyes very squinted.
Yes, old school painter's trick.
Yeah.
Reduce the amount of detail, sort of see the general masses. There's something sort of monkey-like appearing here.
A little bit like Giga's work.
That's right.
The alien starting to come out.
That's it. It's very much that same feeling of sort of organic, almost like organic machines
Obviously there's a lot of technical computer work in what you do as well. You use a Wacom board, pretty sophisticated one as well.
Yes.
It's a screen Wacom board, it's not just a lay down Wacom board.
Yeah, it's the Cintiq.
Yeah, which is fantastic. But a lot of these type of drawings or drafts are part of taking it into the computer and then reanimating it or redesigning it within the system.
That's right. It's a constant process of letting your unconscious mind dream the thing. You get the ideas, one idea leads to another idea, and then you'll go, and walk away for a cup of coffee, come back and go, oh, I see what's there.
It's like allowing your imagination to just, it's going where it needs to go, but it doesn't know where it's going.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes a lot of confidence to do it. It's not a beginner's thing because beginners worry too much.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for so many years. I'm just prepared to risk and have fun, see what happens.
But even in your work, there's definitely a sort of fairly powerful social message.
That's right. I really care about people and humanity and the earth and all those things that we all care about, and in my little way I hope I make a bit of an impact, make people think. We have different stances.
Yeah, I was going to say the stances are coming out now.
There's a sort of a stanceless stance in the end, but it really does help to stand very formally in that kung fu way at the start.
I was going to say, to be able to do what Dave does, you've only got to study martial arts for 30 years and you'll be fine.
That's it, it's easy. Easy as.
The Emirates Airlines also asked you to do some work for them as well.
Yes, I've been very lucky with the airlines. Emirates approached me out of the blue and basically said, Mr. Lovegrove, would you like to come to Dubai and draw your manga characters all over some brand new four-wheel drives, Nissan Patrols? And I said, sure, yeah, that sounds good.
What the hell?
And I'd already developed my characters for a manga project I'm working on.
Uh-huh.
Me and my two friends who are my assistants flew over there, and we stayed in beautiful places and driven around limos and treated first class, and it's a very popular event in Dubai at the beach there.
Yeah. Now, apart from the Emirates Airlines, as we've said, you've done some work with Qantas, but you also did something with them called, or it was about Tropfest. What was that?
Their media team asked me if I'd do a Vine, which is a Twitter app, a 6-second looping video, and that sort of went internationally because Tropfest is international now.
So part of what you do with this is you're actually a really well-known speaker on the speaker circuit, and you do these for corporate events, for people that are obviously interested in illustration.
Yep.
And this is part of a lot of the workshops that you do as well. But it's Speakers Inc. that you work with, isn't it?
Yes, Helen Bain from Speakers Inc. gave me a go. I've done hundreds of workshops, schools and libraries all around Australia. Quite a bit of travel to Sydney, Melbourne, North Queensland, lots of workshops in Brisbane, and of course on the Gold Coast locally. It's great fun, and it really motivates young people to become artists and to see what's possible.
Yeah.
I teach this in conjunction with more classical comic book art, more sort of a combination. This is the right brain and this is the left brain, and get people to try both things and not just be one-sided. It's
exploring their imagination.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't do.
Well, that's it. You've sort of got to let your hair down, so to speak. That's why I let my hair down for so long.
Yeah, literally.
There's none left. But you've got to get past self-criticism and, oh, that's no good and I can't do that and that's weird and that's silly. All right, so I've done lots of red there, giving this interesting creature some design. Now I'm going to just sort of put a few things into the background.
Okay.
Start to give him a bit of a time and place to live in.
And you're still using two hands, but now not symmetrical. They're just sort of doing what they need to do independently.
Yep. This is where it gets really interesting, because when I do it this way, sometimes it's like part of my mind knows what to do and the other part's going, whoa, where'd you get that from, man? It's you just never know what's going to just appear. It'll be the guy's rocket there, I'd say.
But you had a fairly, I'd say, influential start to your career. The folks that come out of Julian Ashton are probably some of the best in the country.
Yes.
And you started at Julian Ashton when you...
And I talked my way in there. I rang the principal up and said, look, I'm as broke as, I've dreamed of coming to your art school for a couple of years, how can I do it? And Paul Dalprat's his name, is a wonderful man, and he said to me, "Oh, your name's Lovegrove." He says, "You wouldn't believe it, I'm sitting here now in my lounge looking at a painting by Julian Ashton, my famous ancestor, of a Miss Lovegrove."
Is that right?
And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Are you a relative?" And I said, "Yes, sure."
Yeah,
I must be. She's a Lovegrove, there's not many around. So that got me in. He said, "I like the cut of your jib, young fella." He says, "You come down here, we'll see what happens." And I ended up getting what's called a cleaning scholarship, where I swept the place out for 2 years.
Wow.
Part-time bouncer.
Yeah.
Every now and then somebody would come up and have a look at the models, the naked ladies, and he'd always say, "Sergeant Lovegrove, there's somebody at the door, needs to be shown the door."
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So it was essentially a wonderful couple of years there, and I only paid for the first few months, and then I got the cleaning scholarship.
Cool.
And had some great friends and great times, and learned a lot.
Absolutely.
Wonderful teachers there.
Yeah, they are some
They're
of the
wonderful
best
teachers
in the country, without a doubt.
Yeah. I'm really into the idea of organic houses, like 3D printed things, almost as if insects made the houses.
Some of your characters that you've been doing for one of your books called Dharma.
Yes.
You're looking for a publisher, or are you going to self-publish?
I'll be looking for a publisher. I've produced a good story, and I've produced a lot of art, and it was the Dharma characters that I used for Emirates.
Yes.
It's essentially set in the future in a sci-fi world where there's lots of cloning and cosplay. Everyone cosplays every day. They wake up and a machine makes the clothes that they wear, and they dispose of them that night and get another set tomorrow. And it's quite a profound story, really.
Yeah. Part of these books that you're putting together, you've got another one, Gilgamesh.
Yes, Gilgamesh is based on the ancient Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a sort of a chariot of the gods type thing.
Mm-hmm. So I suppose in doing this type of work that you could probably get a little zen-like and zone out sometimes and lose the time.
Absolutely. It's a different type of mind. The visual mind is like a dream zone, and you lose all track of time. It just you get excited about it and you can't stop it, and it keeps on drawing you back in. And I bob back and forth because I'm sort of looking at the whole thing, and I see something and I go in there, and it literally talks to you. And I can't explain how it does that.
You're obviously focusing on the picture, and then one eye is using one hand and the other eye is using the other hand.
Yeah, I'm feeling the drawing. Remember Bruce Lee saying, "Don't think, feel."
Yes. You've actually prepared another piece, which is just background colours. There's one at the back there that's very similar. And did you use a brush to do that in a similar manner?
Yes, I used 2 brushes to create. I'm very interested in nature and forests, and so a lot of these works are about creatures and us being a little bit divorced from it, and getting back to nature. And this is created with colours and brushes, and I allowed it to dry, and now I'm going to work into them with Faber-Castell permanent markers, which are beautiful black Indian ink.
Fantastic. All right. Well, it's we've had a great idea on how you go about sort of doing these, I suppose, surreal, abstract, emotional thought pieces. But let's put up the other one, and then we'll do some work on that as well.
Okay.
Excellent.
Great.
Okay, Dave. Well, you've put up a board that you've obviously worked on very similarly to what you did with the 2 hand, but this is actually you've used paint.
Yes.
To paint this with 2 hands, and now you're going to try and extrude patterns or shapes out of this. Tell me, you were mentioning clouds before. How does that come into it?
Yes, well, when I was at art school, I was a big fan of Leonardo da Vinci, and I read his diaries, and one of the really formative texts in there was da Vinci's advice to artists, saying, always be looking at clouds, at shapes and patterns on walls and roads in stone, looking for strange creatures, looking for battles, and just stuff that inspires you. So I always remembered that, and gradually over the years I've learned how to do that. So I'm looking in here for my visual mind to come up with things, just like looking at a cloud. I see things, and then I'll I'll bring them to life, but I'll be using two hands.
And you're using text, is it, or neon?
Yep, I'm using Faber-Castell permanent markers.
Okay.
They're really good black Indian ink, and they're artist quality.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's have a look at how you go about this then.
Okay, well, what I've done here is I've essentially drawn with two brushes and created a type of a forest motif, putting down a blue sky and then a yellowish background and then these reddish shapes which I'm turning into different vegetation and creatures.
If you look into nature, there's a fascinating mathematics that exists through all of the creatures that live on the planet.
Yeah, like that whole sacred geometry and how the conch shell shape is the same as galaxies. That really blows my mind. This is where I started everything, so the central area, I feel it's important. It's just some kind of, grandmother tree or whatever in the forest. We're surrounded by beautiful forests here, so I'm very influenced by the rainforests, and as a youth I spent a lot of time walking around in deep forests, camping and orienteering, etc.
So are these ideas similar to the workshops that you would do with people and kids?
Yes, I always incorporate these ideas, getting into your dreamy mind, and kids of course are really good at that, and it always appeals to their imagination. What can you see in this kids? And it's a rare kid who can't see something. I always find the teachers actually start getting excited, like they've become kids themselves again, and they love it as much as the young ones. But it brings in all the skills. Like the conscious drawing skills are of course not lost. The ability to draw well and realistically is a great benefit. Yeah, this is sort of expressionistic. You can see there's anatomy going on here, but I'm letting it warp and I'm not worrying too much about it because it gives it charm. It becomes more interesting if you don't try to be too perfectly realistic, and that's why, I'm just looking at these two characters here and I'm thinking, they look like they're dancing, and then it starts to suggest what's going on in the rest of the picture.
So who along the path of your career has mostly influenced your work? There's had to be somebody that would stand out.
Well, famous artists, Picasso is a huge influence on me, and Dali and Max Beckmann. Australian artist David Paulson was my first really great artist teacher. Amazing artist. A guy called Tony Champ who worked at the Courier Mail was a big influence. Glenn Lumsden, a really great friend who did the Phantom comic. He's an illustrator, but man, he taught me some great technical things and just approaches to manga, especially to comics. And my teachers at Julian Ashton's, there was, besides Paul Del Prat, Nigel Thompson, Frank Jarko was a great influence, Archibald Prize winners.
Richard Porter,
dear friend, a great guy, always said to me, look, there's nothing wrong with comics, don't let these snobs tell you can't do comics. Ian Chapman used to also say to me, there's nothing wrong with doing comics, Dave, just study your anatomy, get to know the figure really well.
Yeah, I think in the end that's really what Colour in Your Life's about. It's about creativity.
Yep.
The likes and the dislikes of people, in a sense, that some of them may like one style more than the other, but this really is about a journey of people creating, and it's their journey. It's simply not a matter of saying, well, this is the correct way to do it. You do it because of the individual that you are.
Yep.
That's why it's important.
Well, that was a huge revelation to me when I realised that I couldn't be this guy, that guy, the other guy. I could just be me. And I really admire other artists, even if they work completely different. I just admire what they do, and I don't feel jealous. I just think, good on you, man, And if I feel like I will be influenced, but otherwise I just admire them and would like to support them any way I can.
That's a great outlook to have as well.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing, is really supporting us, the artists. And real artists really we're like a club, aren't we? We look after each other, we appreciate what we go through and what we're trying to achieve. And I've always found, more ordinary people will criticise a lot, and the ones who are really good tend not to. They just encourage.
Yes.
They'll sort of give you the tips, and they'll do it in a way that doesn't hurt your feelings, because they realise how personal it all is and what a struggle it can be.
You've actually done some pretty cool work with film and TV as well. It's definitely not the first time that you've been exposed on the camera. and you did some work with Spielberg.
Yep.
With a film called The Ruins.
The Ruins was the first film project I worked on.
Yeah.
For a special effects company on the Gold Coast. And then they asked me back to work on the Pacific, the mini-series Spielberg and Tom Hanks made. That was a thrill.
And you did something with James Cameron on the movie Sanctum.
Alistair Grierson, the director, was actually a friend of a friend and contacted me and said, you know, I heard that you've worked a bit in film. We got together and sort of worked on initial ideas for the movie Sanctum. And I created a lot of visuals. I was designing caves that had sort of nasty, scary faces and just tried to follow the mood.
I suppose a lot of these scribbles would eventually end up helping you design characters for your comics and your illustrations as well. You just sort of see heads and...
Sometimes the random drawing has more life to it than if you planned it out.
Yeah.
David Paulson also used to say to us, if you want to be a good artist, you've got to just do it 1,000,000 times, you know, draw 1,000,000 times, and that's sort of zen. You draw so much that you can't remember not being able to draw, and it's just your own language. I can do highly realised, realistic things, but they don't necessarily mean anything to me. Whereas this does. I know I'll be able to look at this for years and never really get bored with it. Every time I see it, I'll see something new.
Yeah. Okay, guys, another fantastic day. David, thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Graham.
That's it. Now you can see what years and years of martial arts and the aspect of digging deep inside yourself can create some pretty amazing pieces. That was really, really interesting stuff. Now, you're also a public speaker, do workshops. Now, if somebody wants to get in touch with you about your work or even public speaking, because Dave does some fantastic workshops for corporates, for schools, libraries, I mean, right across Australia.
Yep.
Your website is?
davidlovegrove.com.
Okay.
And, Facebook and YouTube, David Lovegrove Art. I have my own channel on YouTube.
You're famous already, aren't you?
Yeah.
And obviously come along to colourionyourlife.com.au and see what we're doing in there. We're changing the website, so there's some pretty amazing things going on in the website these days. Webinars, podcasts, we've got experts coming in to talk to all of our members, so you know, come in and be part of that, because we're really crossing the globe. We're actually in a couple of countries these days, so it's pretty exciting what's actually going on with the series.
Exciting.
But and Facebook as well. Come in and like us on Facebook. Obviously YouTube, we have a massive YouTube following these days. It's quite amazing. We have millions and millions of views on YouTube, which is incredible. But we're going to head off again. I'm going to head off into this beautiful country of ours, and till we meet again, remember, make sure you put some colour in your life, guys, and see you next time. Bye now.
See ya.